All right. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
Episode 4.
Episode 4. Do you just play the song long enough to get your DJ tag in there?
No, I just play it until the drop comes.
Okay.
I'm a little too loud. Yeah, just play it until the drop comes, just to give them a little taster, a little tester.
That's nice.
Throw it out there.
Well, welcome to week 4 of Clef Notes. We have kind of a... Well, hold on. Actually, it's week 3 of Clef Notes.
Oh yeah, it is. It's our third episode. That's right. Not 4.
Man, off to a roaring start here.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So we're changing up the structure a little bit this week because we realized that we were kind of doing a bunch of stupid stuff at the beginning that kind of could have been handled in shout-outs.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than just do 2 miscellaneous sections, we're just going to kind of make our peace with ourselves in the first 5-10 minutes of the show, and then we'll get into our 2 choice albums and then our 1 feature album. Even though this week, both of our choice albums kind of extend beyond one project, I guess, but we'll get into that as we get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, so Andy, what's up with our new news section? What are we going to be doing?
All right. So we just want to do like a weekly recap of like albums that came out and stuff that we're listening to currently. It doesn't have to be something that came out this week or whatever, just something you're really digging into. So you got anything over there?
I'm just flipping through stuff. All right, so there were 2 singles this week that I think are pretty notable. They're probably the bigger things for me this week. Dat Side by Sci-Hi the Prince, featuring Kanye West. It's an alright song. I think it's just kind of notable because we know that Kanye executive produced Sci-Hi album is probably still coming, even though I thought it was probably shelved again. But it's not like he's put out another project, like another Black History project, so I guess that means it's still coming. And I mean, the song itself is pretty dope. I think this is still a pre-hospitalization Kanye verse, so nothing new, but at least there's moves being made again, so that's dope. And the other single that kind of caught my attention this week was Lemon by Nerd and Rihanna. I mean, there's another version of it too, where it's just Pharrell, but I like hearing Rihanna rap, and that's pretty sweet.
No, that was a really good song. Like when I heard that, I'm just like, man, this is just like bumping.
Well, and I'm gonna let you know right now, the certified fresh album of next week is probably gonna be the Nerd album.
Yeah.
Because they released the whole track list and played the whole thing live last night. The 4th. So yeah, I'm super hyped about it. They got 2 Kendrick features back to back on there. MIA is going to be on one of those tracks of Kendrick, which she comes out of the woodwork very infrequently, so that's pretty sweet. You got my favorite rapper 3 Stacks on there, making his yearly 1 feature or a couple of features, so that's going to be dope. Trying to remember who else is on there. Oh yeah, Wale. You excited for a Wale verse?
Ooh, Wale.
I think he'll work pretty well with this, actually.
Yeah.
And there's an Ed Sheeran song for the basic types like Nicole. So, get excited.
There you go. Ed Sheeran.
He's on the second to last track, so he's the last guest.
Okay. All right.
But yeah,
all right.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for that album too. I kind of want to hear what's going on there, because like this single that came out was just like hella bumping.
You started to see this kind of stuff last year where people were just like surprised dropping these albums with little to no notice, but like now I feel like it's like every week. And I mean, we'll get to Without Warning, which is kind of the example of that happening this week, but it's happening next week. Like with the show, we kind of I'd like it if we knew a little bit more in advance what we were going to be doing, but it's kind of cool that like this stuff is just dropped into our lap because we don't really know when these things are coming out. So I'm a fan of the new way people are dropping music. But
for sure,
those are kind of my 2 real shout-outs. I like the Joji project too, but I mean, you're going to probably talk about that. Oh, last thing. Pull Up and Wreck, which is kind of a sister single to Without Warning. It's a Big Sean, Metro Boomin, 21 Savage collaboration. It's a tight song, and I don't know who owns the song, so to speak. I don't know if this will end up on a project. If I had to wager a guess, it'd be on Metro Boomin's upcoming project, Boominati. But it's... I don't know. It's a tight song. That's all I really got to say about it.
Yeah, I wasn't really a big fan of that one. I haven't really gone back to listen to it a second time yet, so maybe I'll like it the second time around. But first time was not a huge. I'm not a huge Big Sean fan, so it kind of just doesn't really hit me in the same place.
He's never been a favorite. I know people who have them as their favorite, and I don't really get it. But he's definitely been getting better.
Yeah,
I'll give him that. Like, I think every project he drops, he gets a little bit better at putting together a project.
for sure.
And I think his like lead single for each of the projects gets better and better as it goes on. Like Bounce Back might be the best song he's ever made, just because the bar isn't set very high for me. Maybe not his best verses, but for his lane, it seems like the best kind of song.
For sure. Okay. I got a couple shout outs I wanna give. The new you said it before, the new Joji EP that just dropped. For those who don't know, Joji is Pink Guy, Filthy Frank, but in this new EP he kind of diverges from that whole meme rap status and kind of goes with a more lo-fi tone. Very interesting. Like it's not the most exciting stuff, but it's definitely something that I really I connect with. Like I listen to a lot of like lo-fi. One example of a project that I liked that no one else liked was Lance Skywalker when it came out. So I thought that this kind of like mirrored that a little bit.
I don't know if I'd put those in the same group. Like I know they're both lo-fi, but I'd say the Joji one's actually like more lo-fi than that. Like that, there's like a certain level of polish provided to that you wouldn't find here.
Right, but there's like it's all about like the limited vocals leaning more on the instrumental as a whole.
Yeah, I know.
So that's the kind of stuff that I like is less vocals with like more heavy instrumental. So that this project is kind of in that lane of more instrumental than vocal, but definitely give it a listen if you wanna hear some new shit that Filthy Frank has been up to, I guess. There's actually a visual on YouTube where like it runs down the whole album, and he has like a different visual for each track. It's kind of cool.
That's provided by 88 Rising.
88 Rising, yep.
And you know the thing that I can say about projects that are like this, you know, with a newer artist, I can appreciate when they are this short, because there's really no reason for people not to give it a try.
Right. I mean it was like perfect length for me.
Yeah.
Like there were like no filler, just like, all right, here's a sample of what I've been up to or whatever, and
evidently
done.
He has another EP following suit very soon. I don't know how this would translate to an album, but I could go for another one of these.
Yeah, exactly. Another shout out I'd like to give. I listened to this new Duckworth project, an Extra Ugly mixtape. Pretty interesting. Like I'm not completely about it. I gave it like a once over and was like, oh, this deserves a shout out, I guess. But definitely give it a listen if you have time. I don't really have much to say about it, but I know it hit a chord with me. So yeah, you want to move into?
Yeah, I'm also gonna.
Okay, you got something to say?
I was gonna be like, also, you know, Nicki Minaj's verse on the Way Life Goes remix just really did it for me this week, but no. Okay.
All right. Anyways, let's move into the Earl profile. So for this week, I decided that I wanted to lean away from the let's just talk about a project and let's talk more about a specific rapper's career. And for this week, I picked Earl Sweatshirt. Earl is of Odd Future fame. Coming up out of Odd Future, he was one of the more talented members, one of the 3 talented members, I think. 3 or 4, maybe.
You can make a huge argument for the internet, and you're selling a couple of other people short.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay.
You're saying ones who became superstars.
Right, yeah.
And even then, I'd argue that
Earl is not a superstar.
I was going to say, I'd argue Earl is about as popular as the internet is right now.
Yeah. definitely. But still, coming out of Odd Future fame, has a lot of backing. Has a lot of features from Tyler, from Frank, from the big guys, and I know Damo's all over his project sometimes. Um, he also came up with Vince Staples too.
Is
There's
that how you say Domogenesis? Domogenesis?
I don't Damo Domo, potato
Okay,
potato,
I just want to
tomato
know.
tomato.
Okay.
Uh,
Boy.
I don't
That
know.
was worth asking just to hear that.
I don't really know exactly, but anyways,
Stop listing on future members. Let's just get into it.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, just in general, he's more of a very gritty, very grimy delivery, and very drawled back, and it's kind of like we talked about Mike a couple weeks ago.
Last
and
week.
Last week.
Last week.
Last week we talked about Mike, and Earl is a huge influence on Mike, and they roll together and everything. So if you've given that Mike album a listen, then you kind of know what Earl's gonna be like. But I feel like people who listen to Mike have been listening to Earl for quite a while, though.
Yeah.
If you discovered Mike on your own. But I kind of want to go through the projects here. So first project was his first mixtape, I guess, was Earl. Have you gone back and given Earl a listen yet, or?
Not this week, but I've heard it over the summer again. And I get why people raved about it,
Mhm.
because he was so young when he did it. He was like 15 or 16 or
Yeah.
something. But like that's not the side of Earl I really like. You can
Mhm.
kind of you can split his career up probably into four distinct eras right now, but I think he really has like two real types of rapping. He has this horrorcore stuff that he has since almost entirely ditched, and then he has like the more moody, wozy, personal songs.
Mhm.
And as far as the Odd Future mantra, burn shit, kill people, fuck school, whatever it is, I don't know. I probably messed up some of those
Odd
words.
Future Golf Way and Kill 'Em All.
Yeah, just I never really loved the edginess with it. I think it's cool. I think it did some cool things for the hip hop scene in general. But as far as a lot of those early tapes go, like the early Odd Future tapes, Earl being a pivotal one in the bunch, they just didn't really do it for me. And Odd Future as a whole, like, didn't really become super listenable until 2012, 2013, with the trio release of Wolf, Channel Orange, and Doris. But they have bars. They have bars, but there's just too much edginess going on, and it just doesn't really do it
Yeah,
for me.
sometimes I felt like some of the other Odd Future members didn't have near as much talent as some of the more prominent ones.
Well, I mean, you're gonna find that in any group.
Yeah, but I mean, as opposed to, I know that we're always comparing these groups, but as opposed to like Brockhampton.
Oh my god, I don't want to get into this.
But I'm not even. We shouldn't even start talking
Good,
about
you
that.
shouldn't, because you're doing an artist profile on people who were in the game like
No, we're not.
6 years before.
We're not doing it on people. We're doing it on person. So let's get back to Earl.
Okay.
Let's get back to Earl. So we kind of Earl's mixtape came out or whatever, and it was kind of his first solo act, and then was it after Earl that he got sent to military school or whatever?
This is what, and I could be getting this wrong, but this is my understanding of it. So he had some stuff on MySpace or similar sites. Tyler, the creator, took notice, took him under his wing. They recorded some songs. Earl's released. Then his mother did not like the kinds of guys that he was associating with / the content of his music, so he got sent away. And then he came back on Odd Future Tape Volume 2 on the last track. That's my understanding of it.
Okay. So then Doris came out after the military school thing.
Yes, Doris came out about a year and a half after the military school thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And with Doris, what did you think about Doris when you first gave it a listen?
I listened to it when it came out, which is kind of when I was getting, I guess, heavier into hip hop, and I really liked it at the time. I still like it a lot now. I actually think it's aged pretty well. We're almost 5 years out from it. The tracks that I liked back then are kind of the same ones as I like now, though. Like, it's kind of cool seeing guys like Vince Staples who pop up a couple of times having
Mm-hmm.
larger roles, even surpassing Earl like many times fold in
Mm-hmm.
popularity. Um, but I mean, like, my favorite songs on these projects sometimes are dominated by the features, which
Mm-hmm.
you don't see going forward with Earl. Like, Doris is a cool project because it shows that he has chemistry with other rappers when he doesn't often pop up on tracks of other rappers. He doesn't do a lot of features going
Mm-hmm.
forward after this, and in his own music, he tries to keep them to a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So, songs like Sunday that sound like they're throwaways from Channel Orange. I mean, when Frank Ocean's on 60% of the track on your own track, probably not your song to begin with. You
Mm-hmm.
probably just spat a verse and he gave it to you. And like the Tyler the Creator songs, I feel like those didn't age super well. Um, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I would say as a whole, it's still a very listenable project, very cool. Another standout is the RZA track. That's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I thought Doris was my favorite. I think Doris was my favorite out of I guess three that he's given a major release to.
You can argue that he is for
What's the fourth?
Solace.
Solace. When did that come out? I don't remember. I don't
It's
remember that.
Let's keep progressing. I'll bring it back up
Okay.
when you get.
Okay. But anyways, yeah, I thought Doris was probably my favorite of the three. I mean, I don't like shit was probably uh, was really good. It was just a little bit more like darker. It
God, I
was
love that album.
it was a lot darker than Doris was, and it kind of like I felt like it kind of lost its that Earl kind of lost his how do I say this, hype quality. But I'm not I
Well, it's coming back if you've heard like snippets, and he's
yeah,
done Lucy.
yeah.
Like before, I Don't Like Shit came out. There was this single that wasn't given any kind of a wide release called Quest Power,
Mm,
and that's just an angry song, man.
yeah.
And that I like that too, but that's not my favorite Earl.
Mhm.
Because so are we just we're going into album 3?
Yeah,
Okay,
let's roll
gotcha.
right in.
When that came out, it was kind of a surprise release,
And
and
you were
I
talking about I don't like shit.
yes, it was kind of a surprise release. Everybody said Odd Future was done, and this was kind of the album that solidified it.
Mhm.
Because you are not going to find features from anybody he was affiliated with besides with Odd Future anyway. I mean, you're still going to see Vince Staples pop up. You're going to see Wiki pop up. Just guys that he'd kind of been working with,
Mhm.
but like none of those Odd Future guys. And Earl did some growing up, dude.
Yeah.
The whole like I love mood albums. I like 808s
Mhm.
and Heartbreak for that reason. That's your sad album. This is your just fuck the world album. This is hole yourself up in a basement and just put this on and turn the lights down, and
Mhm.
it's a different kind of sad.
Yeah.
It's like a really depressing kind of sad. And I know it's not for everybody. I know some people don't like to listen to music for that kind of stuff, but I think you can really slip into an emotion. Like, this is something you can listen to, and even if you weren't feeling that way, you're probably going to start feeling that way.
Yeah.
And I really like Personal Bars, and the first song, Huey, probably still my favorite on the project, just because it's just such a gorgeous way to open an album. He
For sure.
produced the entire project, I believe, and just those opening keys where it's like da 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 da, and then starts rapping
Mhm.
about how he misses his grandmother and stuff like that. That is some powerful things that you don't see really in most other artists, especially rappers right now. So that kind of blew me away.
Definitely.
What's your takeaway from it?
Definitely. I kind of agree with you on all points really. Like it's definitely a much darker, much more low key album. Definitely mood music that you'd throw on. But I just like the one track with Vince Staples on here, the final one, Wool,
Mm-hmm.
like that one is awesome. I love that track very much. I love whenever Earl hops on a track or whenever Vince hops on an Earl track or whatever. they complement each other very well.
If I had to put together a
Like,
permanent rap duo, I'd put them together.
yeah,
At least out of people who are like in the game right now.
yeah,
'Cause
they're crazy good. They're crazy good when they're together. I mean, both of them are good when they're alone, but like put together, like they just complement each other very well. So
so if anyone's listening who's got connections, man, we're seeing all these surprise collab projects come out. That'd be pretty sweet.
yeah,
All right.
would be pretty sweet.
So when that album came out, Earl kind of came out of the shadows for a very little bit. He said that this is the first album that he was really proud of,
Mhm.
because Doris, he felt like there was too much like outside pressure, probably some disputes with other members of Odd Future Wolfgang, and just felt like it wasn't totally his voice coming through. And I get that because, he got to work with some legends like the RZA and stuff. I feel like he works best when he works alone with limited people
Mhm.
helping out and lending a hand. So this is the first album he said he could really stand by, but he also mentioned that he made another project for his mother called Solace, and that it was a cohesive EP of sorts, and that we'd probably never hear it. Then a couple months later it came out. It's just a pink thumbnail on YouTube, and it's about 10 minutes long. Most of it's instrumental, but there's like a couple of verses,
Hmm.
and it's just like one long song. Like there are people who've tried to split it up, but it just runs as one long song. And that's pretty cool too, because it just kind of, you can tell it was made around the same time, and it's like a companion piece to I Don't Like Shit. So if you're into that,
Yeah.
check that out. You can find it pretty easily. Just Solace Earl on YouTube. That's really the only place you can listen to it.
Mhm.
All right.
Very avant-garde. I like the avant-garde stuff. I'm gonna check that out after we conclude this podcast.
What do you mean by avant-garde?
Like
I'm starting to think you don't know
like
what that
just,
word means.
just like a 10-minute mostly
Okay, so you're
instrumental.
saying where it breaks
like,
where it breaks the mold.
it breaks the mold
And-
of
and,
like
he
an
recognizes that, I
EP.
think, and that's why it wasn't really given an official release.
Yeah.
It's for people who I think might be going through some of the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
For
So,
sure.
What has he been doing since 2015, Andy?
Well, I was on the Reddit, Earl Sweatshirt Reddit, and came across a whole slew of unreleased tracks that he's just performed live, and just kind of listened to them down, and they're all pretty dope. I don't think I have like any problems with any of them, and I'm just ready for a new Earl project, man. That's
Out
all
of
I need.
the only other real tidbits I can think of, in the meantime, he's popped up on Danny Brown's Atrocity Exhibition. It's one of his higher profile guest verses, and then he was on the Sam I Am project.
Mm-hmm. He's doing a radio show with Knowledge, too.
Dude, it's the loosest form of a radio. Like you can't
Yeah.
even tell it's them. And like I thought it was a fake thing for the longest time, but yeah, Knowledge has
Yeah.
been mentoring him and making beats, so he's probably going to produce the whole thing again. And Kendrick Lamar has come out saying that Earl is his favorite rapper right now. So
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if K. Dot made an appearance.
For sure.
Definitely hyped.
That'd be
I
pretty hype.
can see a December release. If not, maybe he'll pull another early January, but I hope it's coming soon.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm ready for it. I'm prepared. Okay.
So is that you've made your peace with that?
I think we've talked enough about Earl.
Alrighty, so
Talked
in a very different direction, I kind of want to do the same thing this week with Drake. All right.
Okay.
So the reason I kind of got in this is because when I was listening to Time by Snow Allegra, that first episode, it has that song Time that is sampled in the last song of More Life, Do Not Disturb, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give this another go. Because when More Life came out, it was spring break. Everybody was pretty busy. I had mono, and I didn't really listen to it. And Andy was like losing it.
Yeah, I was
like, "Oh,
yeah,
this is..."
at the time. Let me explain. At the time, I was in Florida, and it's kind of hard to be in a bad mood when you're in Florida. So sunny weather. We rented a Dodge Charger for the road, and we just had an awesome sound system in there. So like I would just go in the fucking Dodge Charger and bump the More Life that just dropped or whatever, and I thought it was great at the time. Then I came home and was like, Yeah, it has its faults.
So
It
he
has its
pops
faults.
into our friend group message from all the folks back from high school and starts talking about how this is the project, Drake made it, this is the best, this is the best, and like nobody who I was with really wanted to listen to a full, what is it, hour and 22-minute Drake project. So I only could slip in like one song here and there, and that was my like I was just guessing based on song name and features what would be good.
Hmm.
So I initially just went to Glow because I have my thing with Kanye,
Watch me, I'm about to
which I was very
glow. Yeah.
disappointed initially because I was like, oh my god, like Kanye's about to go back under the radar, and this is what we're getting.
Hmm.
And but to be fair, it is almost entirely a full Kanye West song with a Drake feature. But for their first real collab, a little underwhelming. But
Hmm.
anywho, I kind of wanted to just kind of talk about where Drake's at right now and why people might have given this a pass in like the hip hop community. And it kind of seems like nobody else is really listening to it, yet it's one of the highest selling albums of the year.
Hmm.
So first and foremost, I kind of want to say I really believe there's only one like less than a C plus Drake project in my opinion.
Mm.
Thank Me Later is just a total garbage piece of music. I and like I was not into hip hop at all. I remember when this came out though, and like he was popping up on like some cool Drake was popping up on some cool Lil Wayne songs. That was like the same time like Forever came out, which is it's like an
Hmm.
eighth grade gym class anthem right there. And he has some songs on here that are okay, but even the singles on Thank Me Later are just pretty bad. Like Overboard, like I don't know, like, something about it just seems very weird and forced. Like
Hmm.
just kind of bizarre. So and like Fireworks, like uh,
What's your favorite project to date?
I'll get to it. Okay.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah, Thank Me Later, just kind of a garbage project, and I like So Far Gone, the mixtape that kind of propelled him to stardom, and I don't count Comeback Season or Room for Improvement just because I don't really. I understand why those were releases, but it just seemed like him trying to get music out in a time before people would just release songs.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to count those. Now, I didn't really like Drake until 2015 when If You're Reading This It's Too Late came out, which I still stand by as his strongest album, even
I
though
I,
it's a mixtape.
I definitely I agree with that. I agree with that.
And when we talk about Drake, at least for this episode, I kind of would like to try and ignore a couple of things. I want to look at the music very objectively. I don't want to look at the
Hmm.
man pulling the strings, all right? Because when you look at a Beatles album, not everything was made by the artists. When you look at a Katy Perry album today, much of it is manufactured. I'm gonna look at Drake as a pop artist because I think he's been one since 20, really after Nothing Was the Same came out. I think
Hmm.
he kind of slipped into this pop lane because most rappers have ghostwriters. Drake just happens to have some of the better ones in the industry.
Hmm.
So man had like a bulk of music. You can say that he's really been running the game since 2011 because in between albums, he just has a slew of Lucy's, and he really released. He really like reached his zenith with that. In between, Nothing Was the Same, and If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. He released like 20 songs, like just as Lucy's in 2014. The most prominent one being 0 to 100. That just they don't end up on projects, but like they're some of his best music. Days in the East, Trophies, just like these ridiculous things that like would be any other artist's like best song, but with
Hmm.
him, they're just throwaways. And maybe he knows that and he just wants to stunt. Like I know it's one of the more calculated musicians out there, but like he could have released those all on a project in 2014 and had a Grammy nominated, possibly even Grammy winning project because that was kind of a
Hmm.
down year for major release rap.
For sure.
And then, If You're Reading This, It's Too Late is dropped, and that hype continues to build, waiting for an album that was announced in 2014, Views from the Six, to come out.
Hmm.
His magnum opus, the one that solidifies him as one of the greats of our time. And this album is just superb.
Hmm.
It's billed as a mixtape. It's supposed to be a return to form because uh, it's been X number of years since So Far Gone. It's supposed to be something of an anniversary.
Yeah.
I think it might have actually been 6 years because Six God, he was just trying to get all those sixes in there. And just this could have been the album. This, in my opinion, you switch this and Views, and it just works that much better.
Yeah, it got me. I remember when it came out, like, I had been listening to Drake, but like not like
it's kind of hard not to. Like you're gonna hear starting from the bottom at every party you go to in college.
I wasn't like an avid fan of Drake. I'd say that I'm still not really an avid fan of Drake, but like
you started to appreciate what was out there.
Yeah, exactly. Like when If You're Reading This It's Too Late dropped, I was like, yo, this shit is fire. Like I'm waiting for Views. Because he had, like, I'm pretty sure he had announced Views was coming out.
He announced Views was coming almost immediately after Nothing Was the Same came out.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, shit, this gets me hyped for Views because he billed it as a mixtape. So I was like, man, if this is what his mixtape's going to sound like, I can't imagine what Views is going to sound like. And then Views dropped, and I was just really disappointed.
Now, when the mixtape came out, everybody kind of thought this is B-sides, and people make the same argument with More Life, and we're going to get up there, but like, I think his B-sides don't see the light of day that often, and he's just really good at doing like a procrastination album. Like they said, they didn't start work on Views until like December of 2015. Meaning that they started and completed the album in like 5 months. Sure, they might have had some ideas floating around, but I don't think that mixtape had anything that was ever going to be on Views. I don't think they knew what Views was going to sound like yet. I think they just said, we're not ready to put out this album yet. When really, they should just switch the titles around, held out on this, and this could have been it. And everybody says that this whole thing is just like trap bangers. I hesitate to call any of it trap. Very little of it trap. Yeah, no, and like, it's just a mislabeling. Like, they're like, he's just a bad trap artist. No, dude, he just knows how to make his, like, he knows how to do his harder songs. He's got, like, 6 or 7 different kinds of songs, and the subject matter might be kind of the same without, but, like, you can make that same argument for almost every major label rap artist. And there are slower songs on If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. Like, Jungle is one of the best R&B songs from that year. He might not be the best singer, but it's just a very well-produced and well-written song. And, like, every Drake album has its cliches. It's got the time and place track at the end that serves a dual purpose because it's one of his famous time and place tracks. But at the same time, it's also his last song on the album. Let's just do one long verse and no chorus. Like, it hits the same beats that every Drake album has, but it just does them so much better. It has that epic opening with some kind of a slowed down, chopped soul sample.
Yeah.
Sorry, not soul sample, R&B sample. Like, it's got guest appearances from people from his own camp for the most part, which I think is pretty cool, which he's since recently started to deviate from a little bit. But I think that really hits all the beats. Now, where does he go from there? Well, he still has to put out Views, but he postpones a little bit more. He releases a couple more Lucy's over the summer that people get hype about on his new OVO Sound Radio, which I remember listening to that every week, wondering what's he going to drop this week. And then there was the beef with Meek Mill, and that gave us some good tracks.
The first time I listened to Views was on OVO Sound Radio. It was like live.
I started to do that, and then the real album dropped, and I didn't want to listen to the album without swears, so I stopped doing that. And
The same thing.
But yeah, then he gets his collab project with Future, which everybody kind of said was just like a Wave Riders move, which I get that, but it helps Future out just as much as Drake, and I feel like if that was a Future album, I would have overlooked it, because I think more of the interesting stuff on there, like the end of Diamonds Dancing or the last song, 30 for 30 freestyle, they're Drake, they're not Future.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot more playability than, say, like Super Slimy did.
Because Drake,
when it dropped,
like he's got the star power.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is, but there's something there. So all this is happening. More singles are being put out. Gucci Mane's getting out of jail soon. I think they released a song together in that time. Back on Road, that's right. And all this stuff's coming out through his own radio show that everyone's tuning in to listen to. Even people who, like, I thought weren't even into hip-hop were, like, tuning into this because he's a pop artist at this point. I thought it was just nuts that, like, there was this big of a cultural phenomenon. And then Hotline Bling came out in the summer of 2015, just kind of on a whim, one of those Lucy's that he just had coming out, and he realized, oh, like, this one could be the jam. So when I think Views was originally going to be kind of an extension of the sound on If You're Reading This, It's Too Late, I think that was the moment where he was like, okay, we need to explore this sound a little bit more, which well, it might not have panned out very well critically. It got him one dance. It got him his number one. It got him the one thing that he was missing.
Mm-hmm.
So we roll into Views. I think Views was just kind of people getting tired of the super saturation of Drake. It was a long album to begin with. Most of the music wasn't released already, and he already had a lot of very similar sounding songs.
Mm-hmm.
And since people already knew the other songs that were similar sounding and they didn't end up on here, they didn't really vibe with the new ones so much. Like Weston Road's Flow, that's a great song. It's more of like a 2011 kind of Drake,
Mm-hmm.
but like you're not going to listen to that when you want to hear that kind of Drake. You're going to go back to the Take Care era stuff. And that's the biggest flaw with Views. You got 5 different Drakes on one album fighting for space, and it just isn't super cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're all pretty dang good. I mean, anytime Party Next Door pops up, I kind of lose a little bit of my hype. But I mean, everybody else really brings it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that this could have been like his, well, I mean, it kind of was like his next level elevation, but like I think it could have been kind of a staple for the time if he would have trimmed it down a bit and decided to go with just like the pop dancehall fake patois direction,
Mm-hmm.
rather than try to cram a half-assed rap album in there too.
For sure.
Or maybe release 2 projects, maybe do 2 discs. Like I know that was a
Yeah.
rumor at the time, because when he released 2 singles, Pop Style and One Dance, everyone was like, oh, is one side going to be the pop side and one side's going to be the rap side? That's already a better idea, I think,
Yeah.
than whatever this ended up being. So time goes on. He released a couple more songs that album that summer that actually did better than some of the songs on the album, at least critically, like 4 p.m. in Calabasas, another one of his Time Place songs. There's actually no great way to listen to that song besides Apple Music Connect.
Mm-hmm.
And that summer he was on For Free. DJ Khaled also charted, popped up for a couple more features. And the next really big thing that he's building towards is this playlist called More Life that he announced a month after the album Views came out, which is kind of nuts because, like I said, everybody was kind of already feeling the super saturation of Drake. Do we really need another album this soon?
Mm-hmm.
But I remember there was still hype for it because everybody was like, oh, well, he feels like he has something to prove because this didn't do super well critically. It might be his like least critically revered album since Thank Me Later. But I was just kind of like, I mean, I'm waiting for it just so other people will shut up about it. And it came out. It came out a little bit later than everybody expected, but there was some cool rumors surrounding it before it came out. It wasn't going to be an album. It was going to be a playlist. I kind of thought it was going to be more of like an OVO compilation album than what it ended up being. But I think what it ended up being was more interesting. It's a collection of, how many songs are we even looking at? 22 songs with maybe 17 of them having Drake on it. Like there's a Sampha song in there that's just
Mm-hmm.
Sampha. That Kanye West song in there is a Kanye West song that sounds like a little bit of a throwaway or something that wouldn't have fit on Pablo, which kind of hard to make something that wouldn't fit on Pablo,
Yeah.
but yeah.
It's definitely a playlist. I think it's more
And
of a playlist.
people were giving
than-
him shit for that when it came out because
Yeah.
like they're like, oh, it's just a clever marketing thing. But I kind of agree, but at the same time, like if you're gonna look at this album, you need to look at it without realizing that there were probably 100 Drake songs released in the year or two prior.
Mhm.
You need to look at it as a guy who probably has had most of this written for him, but just ignore that fact and just any of this bullshit with the playlist marketing.
Mhm.
If you just look at it as a project, it's pretty cool. There's a lot of progression. You start with Free Smoke and No Long Talk, which if I had to trim any songs out of here, I would trim his experiments with the British what's the name? Grime, thank you. I couldn't remember. His experiments with grime because, well, I think Drake's pretty good at being a chameleon. I just don't think he fits very well in with the Skeptas and the Gigs types.
Mhm.
And those are my least favorite songs on here. But if you were to even looking at it with them, like it's got the pretty strong Drake opening with Free Smoke, you know, the one to get everybody hyped up. Like I remember seeing live reactions and everyone said, "He's back, baby, he's back." Like when you hear Free Smoke
Yeah.
come on. And then, you know, you've got your little dip and just some dance hall stuff, which this is what Views should have been. If you just like look
Yeah.
at the run from Passion Fruit to Blem, where you got Passion Fruit, Jorge Interlude, Get It Together, Madiba Ride Up, and Blem.
Yeah.
take that, put One Dance in there, put Control in there, and then maybe 2 or 3 more songs, which you could probably pick
Yeah.
off of here,
I
and
think
you've got yourself an album.
yeah, it definitely fits better with the whole
Dance hall,
no, what
tropical
the album.
views.
No, the my God.
What are you doing?
If you're reading this, it's too late. I think it fits better in succession with if you're reading this, it's too late, than with say Views. I guess would be the album leading up to this.
It's just like they didn't know how to assemble these songs into a couple of different projects, and I bet a lot of them were made in the same sessions. So
Yeah.
he does the same thing that he tries to do on Views here, where he just crams 5 or 6 different Drakes into one album. Like, you get the 2010 Drake, which we haven't heard in a while, on stuff like Nothings into Somethings and Teenage Fever, which that's really neat. And they even acknowledge that, like, they have their little bumps in between songs. It's like, hey, this is some old school stuff you could pop a top to. Like, they know what they're doing. They're trying to please everybody, and that's why they slap that playlist title on there. But it just kind of it keeps things interesting. It makes it go by quicker for sure, but it just isn't as cohesive as I'd like.
Yeah.
I think the guests really bring it on this project. I think Young Thug is one of the standout ones, and you get both types of Young Thug. You got really rappy Young Thug with one of the best verses of his career, and you have the Ice Melts Young Thug, which I don't know why that wasn't a hit. That should have been something that was on Jeffrey.
I thought it was mixed a little oddly. Like
A little bit, yeah.
It kind of didn't really. It felt like it was very rushed, and they didn't have time to master it or something like that, and it just didn't come out.
I think it's a jam though, dude.
Completely. Yeah, I definitely. It was one of the ones that stood out to me, just because I like Young Thug, and Young Thug feature on a Drake project sounds pretty good, but it's just it seemed like they just didn't mix the vocals correctly or something like that, and it just kind of came out the other end a little too like SoundCloud rappery-ish. It sounded like you remember that one Chance and Young Thug thing that dropped?
Oh, I forgot all about that.
It
song.
sounded exactly like that, where it was just like it did not mix well. Like something wasn't mixing right, and
I think
it
they've
just felt
fixed
like
it since then, because it definitely sounds better now than it did when it came out. And that might just be me giving it some time, but like I think they might have retroactively done some stuff to clean it up a little bit.
Maybe.
But all in all, at the end of the day, I mean, the reason it sold so well is because it's so long, and it's really gaming the streaming system by doing that. But if you're just looking at it as a piece of music, I really don't think it deserved all of the shit that it got. I think it deserves a little bit of it, and I think a lot of it comes from just us having too much Drake to pick from these days. And I'm happy that he's taken a bit of an extended break, because I'm starting to fiend a little bit for something new. But if it were up to me, he'd take all of 2018 off too and drop in December 2018.
Yeah.
But I bet we get something by March. Just
a new project, you think? Or he starts releasing singles by March?
I don't know if he's going to go back the traditional route. I bet he either releases a collab project with somebody, because I know he wanted to do that with Kanye, and then he had his creative differences, and that didn't work out. I bet he does that, or I bet we just get something new.
Yeah. Well, maybe I mean, he didn't submit this for Grammy consideration, so maybe he's gearing up to like one-up himself or something.
He's very calculated, but I also think he's a good guy, and I think he realizes that if this won, this is not what deserves a Grammy, even a Grammy nod. So I think he's trying to let his buddies get a little bit of a grab at it, because he knows that he doesn't necessarily belong in the rap lane anymore. And when he comes back, I really just want him to do a rap album, or I want him to do a pop album. I don't want anything in between. I don't care which one it is, but I don't like this switching your style up a million times in one project. Make it work better on songs themselves, combining them, or just pick one or the other, because just switching between the two types on one album doesn't really work that well.
The other thing that kind of irked me about this album after listening to it a few times was I feel like when he has the grime artists on, he wants to reflect their style as much as possible.
Yeah.
And it kind of comes off a little too jacking other people's flows.
Well, and like people have made that argument before, like when he started doing If You're Reading This, It's Too Late, but he doesn't really sound like any other trap rapper. Like I mean, like,
Well, no, he doesn't sound like a trap rapper, but you can just be a rapper and not have to be a trap rapper.
no. I know, I understand that, but everyone was saying
Yeah.
that, like, when he was pulling his chameleon shenanigans, if that he was like stealing from like X number of artists. But I don't think he
Yeah.
really was. I think he was just rapping on similar beats, which even
Yeah.
then they're not that similar. Like,
The other thing I didn't like about it was I freaking hate dancehall Drake. I hate it.
dude, I kind
hate
of
it.
dig it, and I think it works very well in my party environment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. When you put it in a party sense, yeah, it's good. But like, I would never go back and listen to One Dance. I would never go back and listen
Oh,
to Passion
dude, I
Fruit.
was obsessed with One Dance.
I hate I hate dancehall Drake.
Do you like Controlla? Controlla.
I like it more than the usual dancehall Drake, but I just never like that tropical-y dance. And I know, like, Wale did, like, I feel like a whole album of that
Yeah,
shit.
no, but yeah.
And like I just hate that whole dancehall vibe. It just comes off very lazy and just doesn't
It's not the most
it's-
interesting music in the world, but I mean, I understand why it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's fun to dance to. I mean, it's in the name.
Yeah, sure.
Last thing I want to say about this is that I love the Earth, Wind, and Fire sample at the end of Glow, and I think the whole song should have been built around that instead of the beat that you got that's just super minimalist. And there's a guy who went back and fixed it and released that on the internet. Check it out. It's very cool. Okay, so that's our little retrospective on Drake's career, everybody.
For sure.
Let's move on to Without Warning.
Oh my god.
Alrighty. So
Holy moly.
this came out of left field. I don't
Holy
really understand the pairing of Offset with Metro Boomin and 21 Savage. I know those two mobbed together, but Offset's just tacked onto this, and it is magic.
Yeah, like so the whole timeline here was like, I think it was like
One day before 21 Savage, Offset, and Metro Boomin are to release a project tomorrow called Without Warning.
I didn't even see the project. I saw something on Twitter. I think it was 21 Savage that tweeted it. It was just the cover with Offset, 21 Savage, Metro Boomin, and I'm like, oh, they're releasing a single tomorrow. That's pretty cool, or whatever. And then I see that my Fresh notification app gave me a notification saying fresh album, 21 Savage, Offset, Metro Boomin, and I'm just like, what? Like, I didn't, like, no one saw this coming or whatever. I mean, until a day before, but like I hadn't been really checking hip hop heads and keeping up with it until like it dropped, and I was just absolutely floored by it. Like, I had never liked 21 Savage leading up to this, and I think this is the one. Like, this, I kind of was in the Savage mode when it came out, but I hated Issa, and when this came out, I was just like, all right, this is the 21 that I can get behind.
I like Issa more than Savage Mode. I don't understand almost any of the hype behind Savage Mode, but I don't love Issa either. I think there was some cool stuff on there. I think the best 21 Savage is the best over really interesting production. Like, he's a very proficient rapper.
Well, yeah, because he's very monotone.
Right.
So,
No,
like, you
and,
need
like,
a good instrumental behind him.
Right. And he says some cool things, at least for like a lot of the other people in his domain. But yeah, he needs stuff going on in the background, and he has good flow, but like his voice is very monotone. So you need something to ride for it to work. And that happened a couple of times on Issa, not a ton on Savage Mode in my opinion. But I mean, I guess other people are hearing something that I'm not. And this, Boomin brings the beats, dude. Boomin's been saving some beats for this.
Yeah, for sure. He, like, and I loved how, like, it dropped on Halloween and it had a very spooky vibe. Like, the whole tape was super spooky. Like, just all of the instrumentals were ambient and like, but like dirty at the same time, and like, I don't know, it was good stuff.
With spooky song names like
good stuff.
Ghostface Killers, Nightmare, Mad Stalkers,
The Nightmare on Elm Street.
Darth Vader.
Yeah, I mean it was good stuff. Like I don't think like I have any sort of like gripe with this project. I think there was like one or two tracks that I wasn't really about, but like Darth Vader, I didn't really
I
like
don't even
Darth
really
Vader.
remember how Darth Vader sounds.
It wasn't anything special, believe me. But like tracks like Ric Flair Drip that one's just with Offset, but like it just like it's a swinging track and just one of the best like one of the best performances by Offset I've heard to date, honestly. And I think like this project really took Offset to like a whole nother level, like outside of the Migos, and like showed that he can do his own thing just as much as Quavo can.
He's coming for Quavo, bro.
Yeah, definitely.
Quavo's super saturated the market. He's coming for it.
Definitely. And then Ghostface Killers has like a really good Travis Scott feature, like one of the better Travis Scott features that to come out this recently. I don't know, maybe this past year. I don't remember.
I mean, let's put it this way. A lot of times when people use Travis Scott in their tracks these days, they just want him to do his auto-tune moan
Yeah.
and just say some very cliche stuff. It seems that they let him do his thing with this.
Mhm. For sure. For sure. I mean, like I think the last good Travis Scott feature that I was completely about was the one on SZA's album, Love Galore. Um, but besides that, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. I was trying to think if there was something else, and I guess not.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's a good Quavo feature on here, and both 21 Savage and Offset have their own like solo tracks with Metro Boomin. But Jesus, give this thing a listen if you haven't already given it a listen, because it's fire.
Yeah, well, and just once again, short length. You got 30 minutes. You can just crank this out. This is a great thing to clean to. This is a great thing to just run a very short run to. This is a great thing to. I mean, if you have it's probably good driving music. I haven't really had the time to do that, but I'm sure it's great driving music.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely give it a listen if you have the time. I don't think I have anything more to say on it.
I don't either.
All right. Well, thanks again for listening. Really quick before we end this thing, I wanted to let everyone know that we're moving the podcast to YouTube due to length issues. SoundCloud isn't. We'd have to pay for it in order to put more content on SoundCloud, so we don't really want to do that. And plus, we got new podcasts coming up in the future, so it makes sense to put everything on one YouTube channel instead of
dude.
trying to
there's gonna be some Let's Plays popping up there soon. So yeah, get ready for that.
Hell yeah, dude. Let's get it going.
Wait, one more thing. I meant to shout out the Big Crit album again. I was totally wrong. If you have the time on top of all this stuff we just recommended, Big Crit.
Big Crit.
Check out that double album.
For sure.
Alrighty, Clef Notes, episode 3 in the can.
Clef Notes signing out.